What if the freedom you so desperately seek is something you are unconsciously running away from? Imagine a parrot trapped in a cage, crying out day and night, "Freedom, freedom." Yet, when the cage door is finally left wide open by a compassionate sage, it simply flies back inside. Tell me, are you that parrot? We all claim to seek self-realization, to transcend this worldly illusion and merge with the divine soul within. But why do so few actually attain it? Is it because we treat enlightenment like a university degree, expecting hard work alone to grant us ultimate liberation? Think of the young prince who blindly leaped into a treacherous, rushing river, staking his very life for the royal crown, or the young ascetic meditating under a tree who burst into joyous laughter. Upon hearing, he would have to wait lifetimes to reach the divine, and attained it in that very breath. Today, we uncover the hidden, often fatal mistakes we make on the path of self-realization. Are you awake right now, or simply sleepwalking through your existence? Stay with me, because the profound truth about overcoming your deepest desires, mastering the illusion of time, and awakening the dormant energy within might just shatter everything you thought you knew about your spiritual journey. Let us evolve together.
Today's profound talk focuses on the common pitfalls encountered on the path to self-realization, how to avoid them, and how to continuously progress on this spiritual journey. First and foremost, we must understand, what is self-realization? Self-realization is an inner state of being. To truly know the soul, to reside with it, and to expand its presence within us, this is self-realization. We are all born of spiritual energy, but the soul exists within us merely as a seed. In this lifetime, we must nurture and expand this soul, becoming one with it. We must cultivate this seed until it blossoms into a magnificent tree, bearing beautiful flowers and fruits. When the time comes to depart from this world, if we leave with the true awakening of the soul, only then will we transcend this realm in a state of ultimate liberation. The ultimate goal of life is to attain self-realization. In other words, liberation is the true purpose of our existence. This goal cannot be achieved through sheer hard work alone. It is not like studying in a school or university for 10 to 15 years to earn a degree in self-realization. For self-realization, there must be an intense, burning yearning within us. It must be a longing so deep that we feel we cannot survive without it, just as a fish cannot survive without water. When our inner state reaches a point where living without self-realization becomes unbearable, it is only in that profound state of longing that the divine graces us with the gift of self-realization as a sacred blessing. We cannot attain self-realization solely through our own efforts. It is bestowed upon us purely through the grace and divine blessing of the Supreme. Otherwise, we remain like children, forever playing games in the trivial pursuits of the material world. Until we are completely satiated by all worldly pleasures and desires, we cannot truly advance towards self-realization. If there are lingering desires or emotional attachments in your mind, You must experience them fully until you develop a profound detachment from them. It is only when these desires begin to feel like a burning fire, tormenting you rather than pleasing you, that you will genuinely turn toward the divine. Otherwise, adopting the path of self-realization will be nothing more than a superficial display for the world. You can only progress towards self-realization when you develop an unwavering resolve, when worldly life feels stifling, and when you become entirely free from worldly attachments. When you embark on this path, you will inevitably face numerous obstacles, and you must rise above each one. However, overcoming them becomes remarkably easy if attaining self-realization is the sole, singular objective of your life. Otherwise, attaining it is incredibly difficult. If you merely hold superficial thoughts in your mind, casually thinking, "I want to be liberated, I want to be free," you are only deceiving yourself. This brings a short story to mind. Once, a sage visited a wealthy family as a guest. As evening fell, he noticed a parrot confined in a cage within the house. The parrot kept repeating the words, "Freedom, freedom," as if it were desperately yearning to be liberated. Unable to bear the bird's apparent plight, the compassionate sage opened the door of the cage. Yet, the parrot remained sitting inside, continuing to chant, "Freedom, freedom." Soon, darkness fell. The sage went to sleep, and the parrot too went to rest. When the sage awoke the next morning, he gently took the parrot out of the cage and released it outside into the open air. He then had his breakfast and conversed with his host. A little while later, he was astonished to see that the parrot, after flying around for a bit, had returned straight to the cage and resumed chanting, "Freedom, freedom." The sage was completely bewildered. He thought, "I set it free, yet it came right back inside." He then realized the profound truth: the parrot didn't actually want to be free. Even when released into the open sky, it chose to return to its confinement. The sage was completely bewildered. He thought, "I set it free, yet it came right back inside." He then realized the profound truth: the parrot didn't actually want to be free. Even when released into the open sky, it chose to return to its confinement. The sage reflected that many of us share this exact tendency. We merely talk about liberation and freedom, but even when given the opportunity to be free, we repeatedly bind ourselves back to this worldly existence. The tree has not caught hold of us, it is we who are clinging to the tree. Yet, we go around society claiming we want to be free. We can never attain true freedom, liberation, or self-realization by deceiving ourselves. The yearning for self-realization must arise from the very depths of the heart. It must emerge with such fierce intensity that we are prepared to offer our very lives for it. Without this profound, all-consuming devotion, self-realization simply cannot be attained. You can understand this concept even more deeply through a well-known story. A king once had 5 sons. He proclaimed that only the son who could cross the treacherous river and retrieve the royal crown from the opposite bank would inherit the throne. Hearing this, the sons mounted their horses and began riding along the river bank. They were searching for a convenient spot, a place where the river was narrow, the water was shallow, and a clear path existed to safely cross to the other side. However, the king's youngest son took a different approach. He rode a short distance and then stopped. He possessed the wisdom to realize that as the river flowed further into the plains, it would only grow wider. Other streams would merge into it, making the crossing even more difficult. Within his heart, he held a fierce and unwavering resolve: either I attain the crown or liberation, or I die trying. I cannot live a life of compromise. When this profound spirit of sacrifice awakened within him, and he became entirely willing to surrender his life, he spurred his horse and leaped directly into the rushing waters. He did not even know if his horse could swim. It was a leap of faith made in ignorance, but he had staked his very life on the line with the thought, if I perish, so be it. Fortunately, the horse knew how to swim. Within a few minutes, the youngest son reached the opposite bank and successfully retrieved the royal crown. Meanwhile, his older brothers spent the entire day wandering fruitlessly along the safety of the river bank until evening fell. The sole purpose of sharing this story is to illustrate a profound spiritual truth. If there is anything you truly wish to achieve in life, and you are entirely willing to stake your very life for it, absolutely no obstacle can prevent you from reaching that goal. Similarly, when you are ready to put your life on the line to attain self-realization, when the fear of death vanishes entirely from your mind, self-realization is attained with surprising ease. The ultimate message is this: if you possess true fearlessness and an unwavering devotion to your goal, no power in this world can stop you. You will, without a doubt, attain it. In addition to this, self-realization requires immense patience. Just as fearlessness is necessary, profound patience is equally essential. An ascetic was once performing intense austerities in a forest. Sage Narada approached him and said, "I am on my way to visit the Supreme Lord. If you have any questions, tell me, so that I may seek the answers directly from the divine on your behalf." The ascetic eagerly replied, "How much longer will it take for me to attain self-realization? I have been dedicating my life to reaching the divine for many long years." Narada promised to ask the Lord and let him know. Before reaching the Lord's abode, Narada encountered a much younger ascetic deeply immersed in meditation. He asked him the same question. The young ascetic simply smiled and said, "If it pleases you, you may ask when I will attain realization. Otherwise, there is no pressing need. Narada went to the Lord, gathered the answers, and returned. He went to the first ascetic and delivered the message. The Lord has said it will take you exactly 3 more years to attain self-realization. Hearing this, the ascetic became utterly frustrated. 3 more years, he cried. I have already been doing this for so many years. I do not want this self-realization anymore. With that, he abandoned his spiritual practice entirely and walked away. Narada then approached the young ascetic and delivered his message. The Lord has decreed that you will have to take birth as many times as there are leaves on the tree under which you are meditating. Only then will you attain self-realization. To Narada's astonishment, the young ascetic was filled with joy. I will attain self-realization in such a short time, he exclaimed. I thought I would have to wait for as many years as there are leaves in this entire forest. Because he was already experiencing the sheer bliss of communion with the divine in his present state, he had completely lost the perception of time. The very moment the young ascetic uttered those joyful words, he attained self-realization right then and there. Because he was completely unperturbed by the prospect of an endless wait, he achieved the ultimate state in that exact instant. As long as we are impatiently counting the days and waiting for an achievement, we cannot attain it. We must transcend time altogether, becoming completely oblivious to its passage. This, in reality, is samadhi or the state of ecstasy. When you plunge into the profound depths of samadhi or the state of ecstasy, completely forgetting the concept of time, you effortlessly attain the divine. If you remain trapped in calculating time, fretting over whether it has been 2 years or 3 years, 2 minutes or 10 minutes, you will achieve nothing. Therefore, do not anxiously count the moments for the divine or for self-realization. True self-realization is the ultimate grace of the Lord, and that sacred blessing can be bestowed upon you at any given moment. For self-realization, neither indulgence nor renunciation is strictly necessary. Indulgence is merely one bank of the river, and renunciation is the other. If you look deeply into the very depths of the river, the banks cease to exist. Both indulgence and renunciation merge into one profound stillness. Therefore, to attain the divine, there is no need to descend into a life of indulgence, nor is there a need to descend into extreme renunciation. There is only a need to awaken. The more consciously awake you become, the sooner you will realize the Supreme. To realize the divine, one must also be entirely free from the fear of death. There were once 2 brothers who shared a prophetic dream. Yamraj, the Lord of Death, would arrive by the following evening to take them both away. When they woke up the next morning, they discussed the dream. One brother said, I am going to ride my horse far, far away. Yamraj will never know where I went, and I will escape death. The other brother calmly replied, the Supreme Lord is all-powerful and omnipresent. I am not going anywhere. If I am meant to die, I will die right here, surrendering to the divine will. The next day, Yamraj appeared. He went directly to the distant place where the first brother had fled on his horse. Placing a hand on his shoulder, Yamraj said, "Brother, your destiny was written to end precisely in this remote spot, and so I have come here to take you." Later, Yamraj visited the second brother, who was completely unafraid of death. Seeing his ultimate surrender, Yamraj simply bestowed his blessings upon him and departed. Therefore, on the path to self-realization in this life, there is absolutely no need to harbor fear. When death is meant to arrive, it will arrive. If it is not your time, it will graciously pass you by. There is no reason to panic or tremble. For self-realization, an individual must also protect themselves from greed. The greedier you are, the deeper you will fall into the illusion of worldly attachments, making self-realization an impossibility. Two friends once went to a king and humbly requested a small piece of land so they could build their homes. The king made a proposition, "Set out tomorrow morning. I will grant you as much land as you can measure on foot, provided you return to me before the sun sets." The next morning, one friend sprinted as fast and as far as he could, desperately trying to cover a massive distance to claim more land. The second friend, however, walked merely a kilometer or so and returned to the king. He said, "O king, I do not need any more than this." The king happily granted him the land. The first friend, consumed by greed, kept running until he was exhausted. He desperately tried to make it back before dusk but failed. By the time he collapsed near the starting point, the sun had already set. All he managed to secure was 6 feet of land, just enough for a grave, and he lost his life in the pursuit. The king observed, "He whose desires are the fewest is the happiest." Only such a person can advance towards self-realization. One who is consumed by greed ends up losing his very life. Therefore, on the sacred path of self-realization, hoarding desires or harboring any form of excessive greed is always fatal. A seeker of self-realization must be extraordinarily sensitive. They must understand the subtle signs of the divine. Consider the analogy of horses. Some begin moving merely by seeing the shadow of the whip, some need to be struck to move, and others refuse to move no matter how much they are beaten. A spiritually awakened person must be so receptive that they align their path with the divine's will at the very first hint. In doing so, they will face no suffering. Otherwise, the lash of life's whip will leave them wounded and push them far away from their spiritual goal. A seeker on this path must be profoundly perceptive. The more deeply they understand the divine's subtle gestures, the more effortlessly they will reach the Supreme. Now, we must truly understand what is self-realization. Self-realization is our state of absolute awakening. The more we perform our actions in a state of wakefulness, the more self-realized we become. Self-realization is pure awareness. Jiddu Krishnamurti also taught this profound truth: whatever you do, do it in a state of conscious awareness. Eating. If you are eating, do it with such mindfulness that you consider every morsel to be the sacred offering, prasad, of the divine. Chew it until the food and your saliva dissolve into a single nectar. This is the awareness of eating. Speaking. When you converse with someone, your focus should be anchored within, fully conscious of the words you are speaking. Walking. When you walk, carry the profound realization that it is the divine energy moving your body, not your own ego. Every single action of yours must be performed in this state of awakening. The greatest difficulties a person faces are taming their lust, subduing their anger, and mastering their desires. A traveler on the path of self-realization must remain awake in every single moment. One must not violently suppress any state of mind. Even if one is gripped by passion, it must be observed with absolute awareness. If you engage your desires consciously, you will soon realize that you are merely squandering your vital energy, and your indulgence will naturally fade. Similarly, if you are truly awake, you simply cannot be angry. A thief can only break into a house when the owner is asleep. If you are awake, the thief cannot enter. The greatest obstacle for seekers is that they live in a state of unconscious slumber. Awakening itself is self-realization. The more you live in this awakened state, the more your self-realization will flourish, and the more your soul will evolve. To remain awake, anchor your attention on your breath. The very moment you observe your breath, you become conscious. You can only watch your breath if you are awake. Lord Shiva remained in samadhi or state of ecstasy at every moment. This samadhi or state of ecstasy is a state of absolute void. In that state, there is no trace of lust, no shadow of anger. You become entirely one with the divine. That is the true state of emptiness. We are born from this very spiritual energy of the void. The more time we spend in meditation, resting in this emptiness, the more our self-realization will deepen, and slowly, we will reach the Supreme. Once, Gautama Buddha was walking with his disciple, Ananda. Suddenly, Buddha raised his arm and made a motion as if shooing away a fly. Ananda, puzzled, asked, "Lord, why did you just wave your arm to shoo a fly when there was none?" Buddha replied, "A few moments ago, a fly did land on me, and I brushed it away in a state of unconscious, mechanical habit. Now, I am performing that exact same action with full conscious awareness, to remind myself that if a fly ever comes again, I must act in a state of total wakefulness." I must never perform any action in a state of slumber. If I refuse to act in unconscious slumber, I remain anchored in my pure consciousness. I remain eternally established in my self-realization. Self-realization is not a miraculous state that will suddenly descend upon you from the cosmos, nor is it something achieved merely by sitting in a temple. For self-realization, you must strive continuously, at every single moment. You must master your obstacles, subdue your desires, cultivate profound patience, become deeply self-reliant, and remain in a state of constant, conscious awakening. Remaining truly awake is the most difficult state to sustain. We perform countless tasks throughout the day, yet we often have no idea how we did them. We might read 2 pages of a book, but because we read in a mechanical, unconscious state, we retain nothing. We may listen to a spiritual discourse, but if we sit in meditation immediately after, we cannot recall what was said because we were not truly present. However, if you perform any action in a state of pure awareness, it does not merely register in your mind, it becomes deeply etched into your very soul. Once imprinted on the soul, it can never be forgotten. It remains eternally alive within your conscious awakening. When this awakening deepens so profoundly that it permeates every single cell of your body, awareness itself becomes an elixir of immortality. As this divine nectar spreads through every particle of your being, your Kundalini energy, which lies dormant like a coiled serpent, will gradually begin to rise to drink this elixir. You will consciously feel this spiritual power ascending within you. You will sense your energy rising from the sacral center, that is Svadhisthana, reaching the heart center, means Anahata chakra, and finally preparing to enter the crown center, that is Sesarara. You will perceive all of this clearly because you are awakened from within. You are fully conscious of your breath and intimately feeling every inner state through the light of awareness. This very awakening is self-realization. Because our soul is fundamentally an expression of the divine, remaining in a state of conscious awareness allows this spiritual essence to expand. Through this continuous expansion, we gradually reach samadhi or state of ecstasy, ultimately becoming one with the Supreme Reality. Therefore, the foremost prerequisite for self-realization is a total absence of worldly attraction. If you are still drawn to the material world, then go and experience it. Your time for self-realization has not yet come. But once you have risen above all worldly temptations, the divine qualities of the universe will naturally blossom within you. Compassion, majesty, unconditional love, and profound mercy will fill your being. As this conscious awareness deepens with each passing moment, you will merge with the Supreme, and this alone will carry you to the ultimate state of liberation. Even at the moment of death, it is only by being in a state of conscious awareness that you can attain liberation. To consciously and willfully relinquish your life force while fully awake, this is true awareness. this is self-realization. To be with your soul at every single moment simply means to be constantly awake. To be awake is to be with the soul. As you expand this awareness, all your worldly obstacles will naturally dissolve, you will attain perfect holistic well-being, and when the right time arrives, you will merge seamlessly into the divine. Therefore, let us pray to the Lord. O Divine, guide us into the light of self-realization. Keep us awake in every passing moment, so that we never perform any action in the darkness of unconscious slumber. Only when we reach this exalted state, this spiritual zenith, can we become one with the Lord, and this must be the singular, ultimate goal of our lives. Always remember, everything is possible only through the grace of the divine. Our solitary efforts will yield nothing on their own. Only when His grace descends can we receive His sacred blessing. The blessing of self-realization is the greatest of all gifts, attained purely through His infinite mercy. We can only step forward and prepare ourselves on the path. The grace to grant the ultimate liberation belongs entirely to Him. Thank you.